Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Every age group up until 70 has a survival rate above 99%.
Yeah.
Right? So why would I take a dangerous experimental injection, and you'll notice I will not use an inappropriate term unless I go like that to say a vaccine. Why would I use a potentially dangerous experimental injection for a non-fatal illness?
Folks, governments and health authorities the world over are racing to have people take the COVID-19 vaccine. There's just one hitch. When it comes to that vaccine, well, there might be much to be desired. Joining me right now is veteran Dr. Mark Trozzi. And Dr. Trozzi, you do not believe the COVID-19 vaccine is a, quote, real vaccine, end quote. What do you mean by the COVID-19 vaccine not being a real vaccine?
Okay, well, unless we change the definition of words, and I know we seem to be living in 1984, where words can be changed. So I guess I could be told that you're a horse. And if we decide to change the word horse to include you, you're a horse.
Well, these days I can identify as a horse, but stick around for 5 more minutes, I might be a Westinghouse toaster.
Yeah, you have your options.
Go ahead.
So I'm sure that people are going to create a new definition for the word vaccines. I encourage people to look in medical dictionaries, look in dictionaries, what is a vaccine? And if you don't mind if I dive into the science of this a little bit. A vaccine, invented by Louis Pasteur 150 years ago, cured smallpox, is some great science. What a vaccine is you take an injection or an oral dose of a deadened, weakened, or fragmented version of the thing you're trying to vaccinate against. Now, the reason for that is now when you have that deadened, weakened, or fragmented version of it in your bloodstream, it's not capable to get you sick or significantly sick, but it presents to your immune system some of the surface markings called antigens of that infecting organism. That presentation of the antigens triggers your body to create enhanced immunity, mostly through creating an antibody that fits it, right? Normally when you get sick with the actual disease, while the disease is making you sick, your body is engaging in the process of, for the first time, being able to mass manufacture an antibody custom fit to that. But the trick when you're getting really sick is while your body's mounting an immune response, the infection is also making you sick, so people can die or get very sick. With the vaccine, it can't make you sick. With a real vaccine, with a vaccine, you get an injection of the antigens, and your body has an experience of building lots of antibodies against it. So if in the future you get the infection, your body's, that system to make lots of antibodies to it is already primed and can go into producing antibodies and creating an immune response so quick that you don't get sick or you barely get sick. That's a vaccine, and I encourage people, look it up. Don't believe me. Look in dictionaries. Just make sure they weren't published in the last 6 months by people changing the meaning of words. But a vaccine is, you're presenting the body with a fragmented, dead, or weakened version of the thing. Now, what is this experimental injection? Well, you can look into yourself the emergency use authorization briefings of both Moderna and Pfizer. You can look them up. Go down to page 11 under composition. It's modified messenger RNA for the spike glycoprotein of the coronavirus. So,
and in layman's terms, what does that mean?
well, okay, so you're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to have to dive back into the science again.
Okay.
Think about your cells. Here's a cell, here's the nucleus. Your chromosomes live inside, and they contain the blueprints for everything, including the blueprints for all your proteins. Normally, the way your body makes your proteins, and proteins are like little machines that do all the things, they're very complex machines. Inside the DNA, inside the chromosome at least, a section of the DNA is unraveled. And then what's called a messenger RNA is made. It's assembled matching that segment of DNA, and you get a messenger RNA. A messenger RNA now takes a copy of that, slightly different, but it maintains the message, and it is transported out of the nucleus. The chromosomes never leave the nucleus, and it goes out, it's transported to your ribosome, a complex protein that engages with the messenger RNA and reads along its length and assembles amino acids in the correct order and creates your proteins. Okay. Now, the coronavirus is a messenger RNA virus, right? Which means it invades your cells, it uses its genetic material, it utilizes enzymes that you have and some that it has, and it replicates its genetic material, which is a messenger RNA. And then that messenger RNA engages with your ribosomes. And basically what the virus does is it hijacks your equipment instead of making your protein to make more virus. So now your ribosomes create the components of the virus and your cells shed the virus. That's the infection with the virus. Normally, when you take a vaccine against a virus, you get a broken up piece of the virus, like I was saying, and your body creates an immune response. This is an injection of messenger RNA of the virus, modified. So what happens is this messenger RNA goes in your cells, and one of two things. One I'm sure of, the other I'm worried about. But the one I'm sure of is it now uses your ribosomes to produce the spike glycoprotein. In other words, to produce that fragment. So now you have cells all through your body producing and shedding the piece. Remember I said a vaccine is a fragment of the infection. But it's your own cells producing this fragment. And then they're putting that into circulation. And at that point, you have something like a vaccine. But the difference, there's a big difference between injecting the antigen, injecting the piece, or injecting genetic material that goes into your cells and gets your cells to produce that piece. So again, I'm not being very creative here. It just doesn't satisfy the dictionary definition of a vaccine.
And Dr. Trozzi, I have to tell you, I'm not anti-vax by any means.
No, right.
Here's the issue. A vaccine, I understand, typically takes about a decade to develop. If you can do it in 5 years, that's considered lightning fast. We've had this done in less than a year. And a lot of that has been, cutting through red tape, skipping regulatory approval, which normally I'm really in favor of. I want less government in our lives. However, just to make this personal, I'm a 1962 baby. And back then, thalidomide was on the market. That was for a pregnant woman to treat morning sickness. And my mother got a prescription and left it in her night table and never opened it up. It was like a hand grenade with the pin in it.
Yeah, you got
Had she taken it, it's very likely I would have suffered incredible birth defects. Yes. Anyone that wants to Google thalidomide, it's shocking what happened. That was approved in Canada, it wasn't approved anywhere else. And so, to me, that's the cautionary tale of we shouldn't be rushing things, especially things that are going into our bodies.
Exactly, and put it in the. If this was Ebola, if we had a new airborne Ebola,
that's different.
With 50+% mortality.
Yeah.
We're looking at an essentially non-fatal disease, right? Like look. Even before the CDC came out and said, "Oh, it turns out that 96% of the deaths reported as COVID weren't COVID." Even before that, okay, you go back to November. Every age group up until 70 has a survival rate above 99%.
Yeah.
Right? So why would I take a dangerous experimental injection, and you'll notice I will not use an inappropriate term unless I go like that to say a vaccine. Why would I use a potentially dangerous experimental injection for a non-fatal illness? Yeah. And then it comes back to what we were talking about with regard to PCR tests on other occasions, is that why do we need so much fear?
And last question, what do you think the reason is? What is the unspoken reason behind this?
Well, I think there's two reasons.
Okay.
Money and power. And in terms of money, just imagine you have almost every country in the world putting its citizens in long-term debt for massive amounts, and really patented tests and patented injections. And then you have the political agenda, which, is massive in this case. So I think it's money and power, unfortunately.
Well, Dr. Trozzi, I think you might be right. And, I'll tell you, folks, what I think the real virus has been in these last 12 months has been the spread of tyranny. As my boss Ezra Levent likes to say, so many governments of various levels, of every political stripe, they've had a taste of totalitarian power. You know what? They kind of like that taste. We'll be having another interview with Dr. Trozzi very shortly. If you have had your charter rights trampled on in the name of the Wuhan virus, please reach out to us at fightthefines.com. That's fightthefines.com. Let us know about your case. If we think it has merit, we'll get you in touch with a top-notch criminal lawyer, and we shall crowdfund your legal fees.